Hari Om. Hari Om, everybody. So we start the meeting is being recorded. So we start, Srinivasan?
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji. You can start.
Okay. So let's start with the prayer. Sit in a comfortable meditative posture. Close your eyes. Back straight, head straight. You meditate on your Guru. We chant the Guru mantra and take the Guru's blessings. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti Puja Mulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Chant Om 3 times. Inhale deeply. Om. 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Today our speaker is Deepa Chakravarti. Srinivasan will introduce. She already did before also this lecture program. So I request Srinivasan to introduce Deepa.
Yes, Swamiji. Hari Om. About Deepa. Deepa's journey began in Indian classical dance, where she carved a niche and established herself as a dancer to watch in Mohiniyattam. She has found many countries. She has toured many countries, presented her art in many dance festivals, and won the Arts of Critics. She is a junior fellowship scholar in performing arts, awarded by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, and is part of the expert panel in CCRT, Government of India. Deepa also belongs to the student lineage of the great master Sri Krishnamacharya. She is a certified yoga teacher and a healing dance instructor from KYO. Deepa's expertise in Indian art, history, and in-depth knowledge makes her a practicing academic and culturalist. With 30 years of engagement in knowledge, tradition, and after 17 years as a solo performing artist, Deepa hung her belt and embraced a new role. Through Jwala, she wishes to connect directly with people outside walls and doors. Yes, ma'am, you can.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivasan. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, for giving me this opportunity for the second time. It's wonderful to be back and be part of the Satsanga. So today's my topic for today is Pada, a socio-cultural survey. And I would like to actually demonstrate that through Pada, how a civilizational seed of our culture has kind of, taken shape, branches, leaves, fruits, which we are enjoying as culture itself. And this will be done through the historical lens. There will be a lot of artistic interpretations and word interpretations also happen. So through this, what we will be seeing through this presentation is the semantic overview of Pada. Then we'll be going into the visual interpretation of Pada. And over there, the equation of Pada that it shares with Dharma will be looked into. Then the impact of Pada in society for bringing harmony in the society will be looked into. The impact of Pada in religion and how Pada has influenced the discourses on reality. The relationship that Pada is sharing between Rupa. For this purpose, I will be taking examples from temple art traditions and from the dance traditions also. Basically, we will look into Rupa as an aesthetic aspects, Indian theory of aesthetics. How Pada is getting applied in the aesthetic field. And then finally, we'll look at imprints of Pada as what we are creating today. So, can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Everybody is unmuted only. They can unmute it.
Somehow I'm not able to move my screen. I don't know. Can I just try sharing it again?
Yeah, now it's working. Yeah, you can share your screen now. Yes. Yes, next, yes.
Okay. So yeah, this is the semantic overview. The origin of the word Pada, if you see, it's coming from two syllables, Pa and Da, and wherein you will see that Pa is, the meaning is Palanam. Palanam means that which actually is protecting us. So with that in place, then for the interpretation of Da, we will go to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And in that, there is a very particular topic that is being dealt as the three great disciplines, wherein three kinds of people lived: the Devas, the Asuras, and the Manushyas. So the Devas were very indulgent sorts of people. So they were like kind of getting too involved and too attached into whatever they were doing. And the Asuras were kind of whatever activity that they were doing, they were terrorizing, creating fear and extracting work out of other people. And then the third kind was the Manushyas, wherein, those kinds of people were too possessive, too greedy. So in their possession and greedy, they were too attached to things and never wanting to share, hoarding basically. So these were the three kinds of people, and they continued to do what they were doing and didn't find much happiness. So one day what they did was they went to their Prajapati, their protector, and they kind of conveyed that we are not feeling very happy about whatever we are doing. So Prajapati, he heard them, all three of them, separately or together, and then he uttered only one syllable called as Da to them, all the three of them. Now, each one of them, when they took the syllable Da, they went to their own ways of living and they started thinking about the syllable, contemplating on it, reflecting on the syllable Da. When they started reflecting on Da, then each one interpreted it, which is suiting their own lifestyle. So the Devas interpreted it as Damyata. Then the Asuras interpreted it as Dayavata. And then the Manushyas interpreted it as Datta. Now, what does it mean? Damyata means moderation in what you're doing. So your indulgence, they started bringing down, they started moderating on their indulgence and they found happiness. Similarly, Dayavata, meaning wherein the Asuras, once they started showing mercy to the other people, showing more compassion to the other person, then they found that they were able to find happiness. Likewise, Datta, as in, it is sometimes also called as Dana, wherein, you share what you have with you. And then the moment you share, there is happiness that you find. So what this message is trying to imply is that the word Pa is the protector of the phenomenal cosmic world. And since we can mirror his qualities, and that qualities can be mirrored through Da, wherein Da is the Damyata, the Dayavata and the Datta qualities of the protector. There is a very beautiful poem that Thomas Eliot has written called What the Thunder Said. And it's very, very beautiful. It is based on these three qualities, and it is inspired from this particular Upanishad. So moving on, we will go into the interpretation from the civilizational seed, which is the Rig Veda. So I am going to just translate, and I'm going to pause for 10 seconds so that, you can unmute yourself and come out with whatever comes in your mind at that point of time from the translation that I'm going to give. So the translation goes, he measured the multiverse with 3 steps. He measured the multiverse with 3 steps. He is the one eulogized profoundly by the sages who had the bhagyam to witness this great performance. This amazing Lord set in order the earth and other worlds. He stabilized the upper regions like Swargam and made them stay firm through his power. This is from the Taittiriya Sanhita 1.2.27 and of course the Rig Veda. So any guesses? Or do you want me to go on? All right, never mind. I will go on. This is the interpretation of this is the avatara of Vishnu, which is the Trivikrama. So the Puranic tradition that goes hand in hand with the Shilpa tradition has interpreted these lines as Vamana avatara. The Trivikrama, Trivikrama form in Vamana. I'm sorry, I am kind of getting a lot of disturbance. Can we just check our mics? Thank you. So the visual interpretation and story interpretation, which is the Puranic tradition and Shilpa tradition, go hand in hand. So like I said, they had interpreted it as Vamana avatara. Now this word avatara is very, very important because very much connected with the pada also, because if we don't understand that, then we might not be able to go further into understanding our culture also. So the avatara means the descent of that which is unmanifest to that which is manifest. So it is derived from prefixing the word ava to tarana, meaning a crossover. So now this is very, very important. Not everything that crosses over, it becomes a pada or a dharma. So whatever whatever crosses over and can establish dharma, that alone is a avatara. So there you go. I am unable to move forward in my screen. Because this is very, very visually, I have developed the entire thing based on visuals, so I am really having trouble over here. Let me try again. Very sorry for this. Yeah. So I think my screen is getting locked. Okay, so what you see on screen is the Varaha Avatara. Before we go into the Vamana Avatara, we have to first understand other little bit of the previous avatars. So what I am going to show you 3 kinds of images on screen on Varaha Avatara. Because this is a visual interpretation, I thought let me bring in a little bit of the Shilpa tradition. What you see is the theriomorphic representation of a form of Varaha Avatara. This is in Madhya Pradesh, Iran. Okay, the next one. This is the Varaha Avatara in Khajuraho, which is a zoomorphic representation. And then you have the Varaha Avatara as an anthropomorphic representation. This is in the Udayagiri in Madhya Pradesh. So what is important over here is that the same concept of Varaha is basically being represented in many different ways. And this is where the main focus will be for us. So we have to kind of think about this. And when we think about this, we can go back all the way to the evolution of mankind. So the first question that a historian would, when they are looking at Pada as a journey in time, historical journey of time, then we'll have to ask the question, how did mankind evolve? Because in Paleolithic age, the man was pretty much hunter-gatherers. They were living in caves, and they were very much part of the food chain. And they were kind of victims of predators also. So how did they kind of, begin to find food for them? Because they themselves were food for many animals, beasts. So what happened was, in that particular age, at that era, man first domesticated the pigs. It was not the dogs, it was not the cows, it was the first animal that got domesticated by mankind were the pigs. And the pigs, what they had is they had this uncanny ability to sniff the soil and then dig the soil. And when they dug the soil, they found food that was edible, that was safe for the man to also eat. So this is the first aspect. So what is important over here is the concept of digging the soil, because unless we dig the soil, we will not be able to understand what we are, what our culture is, who we are, etc. So if you are interested in gardening also, you will understand that before you sow a seed, you need to dig the soil, and then only you sow the seed. And the reason why you dig the soil is because the moment you dig the soil, it gets nourished. So a little bit further in time of evolution, farming is the correction. So here's what the Varaha Avatara can be interpreted as. Farming is a correction that was made on the land, and the bhutas, the panchabhutas, because we are coming from a culture where we have only 5 elements and everything is hidden in these 5 elements. The panchabhutas that are all pervasive in all matter have their own tanmatras. Tanmatras as in the tendencies. Each bhuta has a certain tendency. So it exhibits a certain tendency. The true potential for the Prithvi Bhuta is the soil can smell, is the fragrance of the soil. So the true potential of Prithvi is that the soil can grow edible food, and that edible nature of the food is coming from, is bringing out the tanmatra of the particular soil. And this was discovered by mankind first. And the potential of the soil that was brought out without disturbing the environmental balance, and therefore it becomes a measure of dharma. That's why, in Tamil, if you see, forest is called as kaadu, whereas an agricultural land is called as vayakkadu. So the the culture, the measure of the land over here becomes the culture also attached. So therefore the word agriculture, it's an evolutionary measure due to socio-geological interaction. So I think not. Yeah. So the concept of avatara is actually that it's a geological timestamp, it's a civilizational timestamp, and the idea of avatara in our culture celebrates timestamp only when it benefits humanity. So in Vamana Avatara, after the Tanmatra, now we are coming to Vamana Avatara, after the measuring of the land and after the measuring of the sky, then afterwards Trivikrama puts his foot and says, where is the place for my 3rd foot? Then immediately you will find in that story that Mahabali bows down to Trivikrama and offers himself. The significance of Mahabali is the discovery of reality, and the reality lies in the oneness of feeling of oneness among people. So from a socio-political context, we are coming now from socio-geological to a socio-political context. There is an evidence of this practice called as Brahmadeya in the medieval, until medieval times. This was a very common practice, and it's a very important concept, because this is what differs us from other civilizations also. So the Brahmadeya concept, what happens is that it's a practice where the kings of the land have offered land grants to the Brahmanas. And the role of the Brahmana were to transform the agricultural, non-agriculturable land to agricultural lands. Now, why they gave land grants only to the Brahmanas? Because the Brahmanas had the knowledge of the soil and the bhutas, basically. They understood the tendencies of the soil, they understood the tendencies of Akasha. So with these two things, they were able to collaborate, they were able to predict which was the time that was very correct for sowing the seed, and which was the time that was very correct for rainfall, etc. And they were able to predict from all these things, and they were able to bring out crops. And they, although this land grant went into Brahmanas, they could never themselves go over there and do the labor activity, because they are not made for their body, and things are not made. They just had great brains. That's it. They were just the technology over here. They used the technology here. The actual technology, actual people who went and worked on the soil were the Shudras. And they, that is why, in Purusha Suktam, there is one place where, each body of the Purusha is being described to a particular Varna. And in that, you will find that the Shudras, the Pada belong to the Shudra Varna. So here we have the Varnas had an egalitarian purpose, basically. And Vamana Avatara is how people from different backgrounds came together, and the king established the Pada. The Pada over here is the Dharma. What is the Dharma here? It is the economic order of the particular kingdom. So what do you see on screen is the Padmanabha of Trivandanandapuram, and you see the Balaji, feet of Balaji on the screen. From Tirupati. This is the impact of Pada that we are going to see on religion. So how did we come about, why is it so important to worship the Lord Vishnu by looking at the Pada? In every other, every god has to you have to have a darshan of the particular god through a particular way. And for Vishnu, it is only through the Pada. That is why it is so important. When you go enter into the Tirupati Balaji temple, you have to see him from bottom up. You have to see him. So, well, the first worship, we have to go back in time now over here to our Itihasa. The first worship of Pada is coming from Ramayana. When Rama was sent away to the forest, Bharata was not there in Ayodhya. So when he returned back to Ayodhya, he found that Rama was already gone, and Dasharatha was in a very, very painful state. So when he heard the story of Rama being sent away, he immediately rushed behind and wanting to correct the wrong that had happened over there, and wanted to bring back Rama. So he went chased after him all the way till Chitrakoot, and he confronted Rama, and the conversation that Rama and Bharata has at that point of time is a very, very beautiful conversation. And finally, like they agree, you might want to go and revisit it to understand more about that concept of dharma. So finally, what convinced Rama and what convinced Bharata is that he says, okay, fine, I won't be the ruler myself, but I will rule Ayodhya and the kingdom in place of you by keeping your Paduka. So the Paduka concept came at that point of time, and it is actually righteousness. It signifies righteousness in action. So often what happens is that we think something, but we are not able to execute what we often think into action. We end up doing something else. So the beauty of Rama is that he did what he thought without hurting anyone, that too, without creating conflict. And if we understood this quality of Rama, then we would know why Rama is a god in our culture, how he became or he achieved the status of god also. Speaking of Pada and the impact on religion, I am very sure that you would have come across one or two of the Tambram houses as neighbors, or you might yourself be one. So if you go visit their house on a Krishna Jayanti day, what do you find? You find that they actually put imprints of small little Krishna all over their house. So this is also another way of inviting the God into the house, because in our culture we do not separate God from our living. They are very much part of it, and this is how we show or remind ourselves that they are very much part of it. Okay, from all that, now to the core point of it, what you see is it's actually a matrix that I have. It's a thread from a matrix of 5 by 5. And I've taken just one thread and I'm giving you, so that I'm simplifying it so that you'll understand better of how Pada is a civilizational seed. As you can see, Pada is the Karmendriya. And above it is the Jnanendriya, which is the Chakshu. The correlated Jnanendriya, or the organ of perception, is the Chakshu. Chakshu as in the sight. And then you can't see. If you want to walk, you need to see where you're putting your foot. So that is the concept. And then if you have to see, then you have to have light. So there is Agni on top of it. Without Agni, there is no light. Otherwise, there's only darkness. So the Agni brings in the concept of light. Knowledge, you can see. And then from there, if you have to have Agni, if you have to have knowledge, then you should have had some sort of an idea of a form. That is the Rupa. The form over here is not the physical aspect of it. The form itself is an abstraction of an idea. So if you're taking a Platonian concept, like in Greek, there they will call it as logos. So from there, you go into the ahamkara. So if you want to understand who I am I the body or am I the consciousness that is residing in the body, then that is why, that is the conflict that we are often having. Are we the universal self or are we the individual self? How am I behaving? So this is the conflict that we are often having. And this is what we have to also overcome for us, because ahankara is the organ for us, which is actually giving us perception, which is forming perceptions of us and the world around us. So this conflict should not be there. That's why, when Trivikrama asked for the third feet, immediately Mahabali did not have 2 seconds also time to think. He immediately bowed down and fell at the feet and offered himself at that point of time. So it is very important for us to have a idea of universal self, so that it can bring some sort of a harmony for us. And this is also the reason why Bharata said that I will not rule. Imagine, think about it from a political point of view. At that point, when Rama was sent, he was going to be coronated. Okay, he was going to be the next king. But then suddenly, he is sent off to the forest. If you are a subject of that particular nation, like a nation which was an intelligent nation, you will have problems when somebody else is coming and sitting on the crown. They will not accept it. There will not be order in that particular kingdom. So Bharata insisted that I will not rule until you come back. So over here, the idea of Pada that is actually being referred to is the measure of righteousness. Pada is incomplete, therefore, without all the karmendriyas, Vak, Hasta, Payu and Upastha and the Karme and your Jnanendriyas and your Bhutas and your Tanmatras. And then if all of them are in order, then you will be able to have a darshana, and then you will understand your real self. That is why the next one, we are going into the age of the darshanas. The image that you see on screen is that of Patanjali himself. Since we are talking about Pada, very quickly I want to bring in, because if you notice the Yoga Sutra, how it has been it has been thought of, each chapter, there are 4 chapters, so each chapter is a measure by itself, and each of these 4 chapters are actually named as a pada. There is Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. And another synonym of pada is a quarter. So each quarter, if you complete, it completes itself as a circle. So this entire, what a beautiful, I mean, like how much of thought would have gone into just constructing those names for that particular chapter, that he wanted to name them as pada. And so when you put all the 4 circles together, it becomes time. And when you understand the concept of time, then you know where you have to sit to overcome it or to master it. Speaking of darshanas, another great saint, another margi, you can say Darshana Margi is Lord Buddha. And the reason why I took is because here is where we'll be branching from the age of darshanas, and we'll see how the pada is getting applied in the aesthetic aspects of the Indian theory of aesthetics. So as you can see, I mean, like the first rupa, if you see, if you're studying Indian history, Indian art history, then you will understand that the first rupa that they started evolving forms only through the form of Buddha. Because, in those days, the Buddhist monks were used to always stay in the caves during the monsoon time, and to keep themselves occupied during their meditation, and particularly during their meditative activities, they will close their eyes and visualize the face of Buddha at that point of time. And in that visualization, what is important is the smile of the Buddha and the eyes of the Buddha. It depends. If you're buying a sculpture of Buddha also, this is what you have to notice actually. So in a meditative space, when a person is meditating, there will be a smile. Many of our Hindu gods also, that smile that they bring out in the face of the god it's the most beautiful aspect of that particular shilpa itself, I would say. It captures everything about the particular meditativeness, what they are feeling in that meditativeness quality state, you can say. So that smile is very important. And then the eyes, because when you're in a deep meditative state, your eyes are not completely closed. The eyes are half closed and your eyelids are looking upwards. So this is the quality that was brought out in stone by the Buddhist monks when they were like carving them. You will find many of these in the Jain caves also. The Jain Tirthankaras also, when they try to capture only that particular form, the seated position of a meditative practitioner. That in itself says everything. That is enough actually to enjoy it by itself. There needs no more. Then after this only came all the Hindu iconographic ideas that was represented more deeper and deeper and deeper. That's why I chose this picture also, because it's half closed. When an image is half closed, it always more adds beauty to it. So that's the picture. So moving on, as you can see that Buddha was great because he was a margi at that point of time, wherein socialistic practices were very ritualistic and very rigid at that time. So if you want to have a darshanam, then you have to have a margam. You cannot have a darshanam without a margam. And that is why Patanjali's eightfold principle or Buddhism's eightfold principles are very, very important. That lays out a path for you, and that is the margam. So the person that you see on screen over here is Bala Saraswati. She belonged to the Devdasi tradition. You can consider her as one of the greatest that we have ever had in the dance field. And in a Bharatanatyam recital, many of the South Indian, even the Mohiniyattam recitals, the repertoire itself is called as margam. And Bala Saraswati has beautifully compared how the recital, a rasika watching a recital, to a bhakta going and visiting a temple. And here she is kind of saying that just like how the bhakta enters through the gopura, the recital begins with the invocation. The invocation is usually a mangala shabda, wherein, it's abstract syllables. So you're immediately tuning your mind and body into something that's it. Okay. And then from there you go to the balipita, wherein, you're putting all yourself, you're bowing down yourself, and then you're purifying yourself. And that is your place where you're slowly moving from the abstractness to some sort of this one, wherein, the music is kind of introduced into the repertoire presentation. And then therefore from there, the bhakta, as he moves into the ardha mandapa, then the shabdam comes in. Shabdam is a place where the dancer is kind of, interacting with the audience by telling small capsules of story. She conveys things. She's interacting with her audience, with her rasikas, sahridayas, by conveying short stories. And from ardha mandapa, she goes to the mukhya mandapa, where the mukhya mandapa is very big, large, sprawling. Just like how the mukhya mandapa is big and sprawling, the varnam is also one of the longest items that is performed over there. I don't want to call it as an item, but yeah, well, for lack of word. So the varnam is where she is interacting over there. And here more music and the abstract syllables and the sahitya are overlapping each other. But here there are no stories conveyed anymore. It is more of emotional state of who she is or where she is and what she has experienced and what she is lacking over there as experience now, but longing for it more, longing for more. So which means that she has had an experience, something of, there is a certain ananda that she has somewhere in her life touched on or understood or realized or experienced it, but she is longing for more. And that is why she is having this conversation over there, kind of, drawing even all her audience to connect and say, look, this is what it is all about. And then from there, slowly she goes into the threshold. The bhakta goes to the threshold of the sanctum sanctorium. Now, this is the place where all the lights are getting dim. There is darkness over there in the sanctum sanctorium, and there is very dim light over there. And in this dim lighting, then the padam is actually performed over there. So when she is actually performing the padam, she is in such close intimacy. Even padam by itself, how the composition of the padam itself is in such intimately done, where the jivatma is talking in such deepest of details about their samyoga, sambhoga, everything. And it's a very beautiful dialogue, or rather monologue, that she is having. But it is also a dialogue, so it's very difficult to explain unless you experience it. And once the padam gets over, like I said before, in our culture, the god is never outside. He is very much part of our living state. So you offer a flower or something to the god at that sanctum sanctorium. You don't go back without anything. You get back something, and that is the naivedyam that you're, wherein the camphor is actually shown of that particular god. So that darshanam, I want to just quote directly from how Bala has said it in her words. In Tillana breaks into movements like the final burning of camphor, accompanied by a measure of din and bustle. In conclusion, the devotee takes to his heart the god he has so far glorified outside. So all the way from that moment when he stepped into the temple, all the way, the time that he is taken to have that darshanam, and each time, every time the bhakta is visiting the temple, or every time the particular rasika is going and sitting over there to watch a dancer, that what they take back home is the god that is glorified into their heart. So margam is the path for darshanam. So without the proper knowledge of darshanam, there can be no dialogue over here. That is the point over here. Okay, so before we go and stand in front of an idol in a temple, we should first qualify ourselves, because we should know what that idol means, what we are standing in front of, and who we are having a dialogue with. Because you can't go walk into a Hanuman temple and say, oh, I want to get married soon. That's not going to work, right? Okay, so the temple that you are seeing in screen over there, the roof is the golden roof, and it is none other than Chidambaram. And Vedic rituals and hymns of Tevaram are offered every day, even today. It's a beauty. The temple celebrates Arudra during winter, and this particular event is very important because it is called as Arudra Darshanam. That's why I took this particular temple today for our discourse. And more importantly, the deity that is represented in this temple is that of Akasha or ether. I don't want to call it, translate it as space, because nowadays space is becoming a rich man's hobby, basically. So let's avoid translating Akasha as space, and let's start using Akasha as ether, so that we can differentiate between the two also. So usually Shiva temple is represented as a lingam, an iconic form. The idea of the lingam is that it can capture the Shiva and not without the Shakti in it also. So this is one of the rahasyas of Chidambaram. The Chidambaram rahasyas are more, and it is a realized experience. You have to go there, you have to visit the temple, and you have to be a practitioner to have a darshanam over here. And that's all I want to say, and I don't want to say anything more. But the focus that we will shift over here to the Chidambaram temple's beauty is the Nataraja. Since the deity is in Akasha Rupam, the Utsava Murti is the Nataraja, and the Utsava Murti, like you see on the screen, it has today's focus, since it is Pada, we will also keep our focus to the Nataraja's Pada alone. So the Muyalavan that you see over there down, the demon, he signifies the wrong perception of self, and therefore he is crushed on the ground under the Nataraja's foot, while the other foot is raised high to indicate non-duality. And because it is Nataraja, why is he the lord of the dance? Because the dancing feet of Nataraja contains in its sthiti, which means that it contains all active, passive movements. Like if you have a pendulum at rest, do you think it is really in rest? The ball that is hanging down, which is not moving, which is just still, that it is still having something over there. There are so many forces that is acting on the ball, and therefore all active passive movements are the sthiti, and the gati is all passive aggressive movements. So when you push the pendulum, when the pendulum gets swayed and it is moving from one end to another and it is distorted, going all over the place, that movement that is getting captured is the gati, or the passive aggressive movements. So that is the idea. So the God, we need to the God to be understood with the reality itself. We cannot separate God, because our culture is not like that, where we have something called as God, and then we are living over there, and then we go over there just to put some dakshana over there in the temple and ask for, that's not how it works. That's not the concept of God over there. Every rupa has a meaning, and every rupa has a darshana that has to be acquired for ourselves. The pada of the Nataraja alone is an iconic statement, conveying that the mastery over the perception of reality comes from transcending the individual self. And this mastery cannot happen without harmonizing the bhutas. So our ancestors have been very intelligent. They have been part of an extremely intelligent society. Are we intelligent enough to understand what they have given us? Are we intelligent enough to preserve what they have given us? Something to think about. Because the last thing where we are coming here is Pada. Where are we today? Where are we in terms of Pada today? So we have seeded somehow or the other, the digital revolution, and we are also witnessing its growth. The social media claims that it is bringing a lot of people together. It certainly is, because if it had not been for them, today you and I will not be having a conversation. But at the same time, we have to understand that the same social media is disturbing and harming the sanity of many people too. So there is very little compassion and tolerance that we are showing as citizens of the world. This is something that we have to introspect and work on. Also, the bigger problem is that of the earth. Goddess Bhuma Devi is suffering due to the lack of vision, because Bhuma Devi, it is not complete without the Panchabhutas. That's why I'm referring to her as Bhuma Devi. Is suffering due to the lack of vision in the disciplines of politics, industries, economies, trade, and science also. Why not? Yeah, because there seems to be neither pa or da. The protection is again comes with a question mark and an exclamation mark, and da, damyata, datta, dayavan. Think about it. So the leadership is certainly failing in all the fields. So before we talk big at dinner tables about climate change and global warming, we need to start introspecting also critically about our own lifestyle. The symbol of Dattatreya used to be Pada, okay, the real symbol. But today it's more of a pot of gold, and the same applies to Akshaya Triti also. The idea of the Pada is slowly going away. The Bharata, the land that was not a land against materialism, but it is not a materialistic culture. Being spiritual does not mean shutting our eyes. However, being spiritual means keeping in pace with the speed of thoughts. So let us stop abusing the resources and shift our focus to the needs and thoughts. Let us change the way we operate in the field of science, research, and technology. We need to set some boundaries for advancements in science also. Because in the name of research, we cannot be drawing blood and prodding into the tissues for studying culture. That's not how our culture is. Our culture is where we hold the nadi of the person and then we heal the person. So it's a completely intuitive process, and we have to start bringing back those kind of aspects into our living style also. So that kind of advancement will neither liberate the self, because the more we go back, use microscope for studying something, the more we are being dependent on something outside of us. We are never going to be tuning our bhutas to the universal self. That kind of advancement will neither liberate us, nor will the mind elevate in this kind of thinking process. So that should also kind of change. Point is, bhutas, the akasha, vayu, agni, apa, and prithvi are the key why the earth is the most friendly and habitable planet. And we need to follow the path of dharma for the darshanam of pada. And that is the only way to save us. So this has been my presentation for you as Pada, the socio-cultural survey. And I would like to thank Swami Gambhirananda and their Satsanga for giving me opportunity yet again for presenting my thoughts and ideas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for you, all of you, for coming today. It's a Sunday morning. I couldn't have asked more. Thank you so much for your presence and time. Questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm open for questions, sir.
Yes.
If there's any question, you can, please don't hesitate. There is no right and wrong in it. I like to see people. Can I see who are all there?
Unmute yourself, madam. Padma, madam, you can unmute. Unmute பண்ணிட்ட madam எல்லாரும். Unmute பண்ணிக்கலாம். Madam, unmute பண்ணிக்க சொல்லுங்க.
If you have questions, please unmute yourself and ask. There must be an unmute button, mute button at the bottom of the screen. Please unmute yourself.
I'm Padma from Chennai. Deepa, it was nice hearing you and trying to convey the concept of Pada and how it can be related to our day-to-day life. My like add-on will be like we have to bring in a lot of youngsters into the concept. Like as you said, it has to be a way of life. Unless it becomes a way of life like the earlier days, we are losing a lot of time for the youngsters, especially the media is distracting them, as you said. That was a good connotation, what you mentioned. And so maybe in your own way, in your with the guidance of gurus you have, you can think of taking the concept to the school level, to the college levels, so that it catches up. Like our generation, to an extent, we are able to do less harm to the Prithvi. We are doing a lot of harm to the Prithvi as far as my understanding goes. In the sense, even every time I even tell my family people, every time I read, phase 3 of metro rail or any big constructions coming up in the cities, why now it is going to the villages as well. And so I used to tell we are not doing justice to the Bhumi Devi. So that is hurting us in lot many ways in our day-to-day life, and we have started feeling it. In the global level, people are talking about global warming and then how to protect the earth and then the other natural resources given by the great God himself. Nevertheless, we are not moving in the right direction in the pace what is required to like retrieve all the nice resources given by the Almighty. So it is high time, I feel we should we move on to we went to the like children.
Correct. Yeah, got it. So yeah, what I found is that
about it, and any small help which is required from my side, I am always willing, as you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right. It is very important to get this to the next generation. But I have generally found that the next generation is willing to listen as long as we are able to convey a concept with the conviction. Many of our concepts have deeper meanings and sense that is applicable from the way of living point of view. But we have not conveyed it from that point of view. The moment we start revisiting these concepts and start conveying to them in that way, I am very sure that they will be more receptive. Already a lot of changes coming. Youngsters are listening, youngsters are paying attention. Yes, ma'am, we will take your this one, we will take it to the students. We have to bring about that kind of a change. Yes, we will do it. Any other questions? I was wondering why nobody is asking what is the difference between theriomorphic, zoomorphic, and anthropomorphic. Anybody? Did it ever occur to you why they are? What are they? Why did we have to be represented in 3 different ways? Okay.
I did. I was wondering initially when you were sharing that I had that thought. Please,
so
please
thing, the theriomorphic representation is when a god is represented in a form of an animal. Any god which is represented in the form of an animal is a theriomorphic representation. The zoomorphic and anthropomorphic, there is a difference between them. The difference between is that when human-like characters are brought out through human-like characters in animals is the anthropomorphic representation. Again, human-like characters in animals. Okay, the zoomorphic is animal-like characters in humans. So that is why if you see the quality of the pig is the sense of smell, to the soil, how they are connected, the tanmatra of their gandha. That gandha is the quality of that particular, their essence is captured in that particular nose, their ability to smell things. So that tanmatra, when you are able to capture it, because humans have that quality, but we're not using that enough, the sense of smell. If you have danger, if you come across danger in life, the first thing that actually sniffs danger is the nose, the sense of smell. So we are always kind of, attaching the nose to the gross sense of, how food smells, which is nice also, but it has to pick up other things as well. So the development of the sense in humans is reducing day by day, sense of smell. And before you go, another zoomorphic, something for you to introspect on from this. Another zoomorphic thing is there, worshipped by us in our culture. It is very, very important. Very widely prevailing concept in our culture. If you can kind of bring that out, not a theriomorphic, but a zoomorphic. Anybody? Any guesses? It's okay, you can just guess. There's no right or wrong. Are you going to give Hanuman? Manishri says it's Hanuman. Hanuman is anthropomorphic. There is a body that is human and there is only the face that is monkey. So it doesn't come under the zoomorphic concept. See, only if you, there, the worship of cow. And what is it called? Kripa Srivatsa. What is it, cow? Cow, when it's done, the zoomorphic representation of cow in Indian culture. Would you like to say that too? It's
Kamadhenu.
It's Kamadhenu, correct? Kamadhenu. If you see in the Kamadhenu's form, you will find everywhere all the gods are being, like residing in different places of Kamadhenu itself. So Kamadhenu is another zoomorphic form that is there, that is being represented. Another theriomorphic form, very famous theriomorphic form.
Vinayagar.
That is anthropomorphic.
I'm getting confused out of
the very famous theriomorphic form is Nandi. Nandi. It's just a beast standing over there outside Lord Shiva.
Bhairava.
I feel like it's another topic developing on its own. We have to do a presentation.
No, this is how you can actually work on it, because once you start looking at things in this way, then you start Ananta Shesha, correct?
How Nandi Deepa?
It's an anubhava. Wait for it. You will find your own answer. I don't want to spoil your process. You will get your answers. It becomes too much for me to handle right now. All right. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll just wrap it up. So for wrapping it up, I have chosen a very beautiful Panchabhuta Prithvi based shloka. Srinivas sir, can I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can do. Madam,
Prithvi Shanta Sagnina Shanta Same Shanta Shuchagung Shamayatu Antarikshagum Shantan Tad Vayuna Shantan Tanme Shantagum Shuchagum Shamayatu Dhyau Shanta Sadityena Shanta Same Shanta Shuchagum Shamayatu Prithvi Shantirantarikshagung Shantir Thyau Shantir Dishas Shantiravantara Dishash Shantiragnish Shantir Vayush Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapashanti Roshadhaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashvash Shantih Purusha Shantir Brahma Shanti Brahmanas Shanti Shantireva Shanti Shantir Me Astu Shantihi Tayahagang Shantya Sarva Shantya Mahyan Dvipade Chatushpade Cha Shanting Karomi Shantir Me Astu Shantihi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Deepa. Bye. Bye, Deepa. Thank you, Swamiji.
ma'am, ஒண்ணுமே கேட்கலையா? ஏதாவது டவுட்ஸ் இல்லையா? Okay, ma'am. Shall we close?
Yes, shall. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you so much. Hari Om.